Mr. President, there are facts, reports of maiming, hacking of limbs, raping women, and killing children. If you're not responsible, who is responsible?
Well, look, let's look at wars across Africa. If we look at wars across Africa, there have been reasons. There have been countries that have invaded other countries, occupied them for some time. Their troops have left on the African continent. Things happen in those countries. In my case, there were no Liberian troops that went across the border. It was a fact. I said it publicly. ECOWAS knew. I knew Forty Sanko for many years.
What kind of relationship do you have with him?
Well, Forty Sanko, I got to know Forty Sanko many years ago when his men and my men trained together in a particular country in the same camp. That's how I got to know Forty Sanko.
Were you close to him?
Yes. I'm not going to deny Forty Sanko was a friend of mine. He was a friend of mine. I had no need to help Forty Sanko because Forty Sanko was trained by a country. He was financed by a country and armed by that country. And Liberia and Charles Taylor did not have the means to assist him, because if I had the means, I would probably be in Monrovia right now. Okay, how does a country, again, with less than the $100 million budget, not fight its own war, but is capable of training, quote unquote, arming and financing another country? It's not possible. But there's another very important thing that I see as obstructionist in this process. Look, let's take an extreme case as Milosevic, who was guilty of crimes against his people. Charles Taylor if Charles Taylor is a wicked, cruel man, my wickedness and cruelty must also manifest itself where? In Liberia. It's impossible to say this guy is only wicked to others, but he leaves his own people. But Milosevic was taken to a court outside of Yugoslavia for crimes that he should have committed in Yugoslavia. But if you look at it and you say to a Liberian president, we're going to take you across the border to another country, place you in a jail indefinitely, because this is what it would amount to for what you may have done in that country, and that country will try you. You bring perpetual confusion between Liberia and Sierra Leone. There could be another war. It's a way of keeping Africans divided. There is a West African court. If Sierra Leone felt that it had a case against me, I would have no problems in giving my defense at a West African court. There are countries on this planet right now whose soldiers, private in their armies, can never be indicted for whatever atrocities they commit anywhere in the world. They are exempt, they are untouchables. But you tell a president of a small country, we don't care about you, we will disgrace you, we'll humiliate you, we'll put you in the prison next door because we say so. It's not right, it's not fair, but I guess in today's world there's nothing right and fair. But I'm glad that at least Black Africa is saying, hold it, we don't see it the way you see it. But some terrible things happen in Sierra Leone, and I think Sierra Leoneans did it, and they ought to be held accountable. If you listen to His Excellency the President of Nigeria, and I have said this to him, Charles Taylor, as President of Liberia, wants to be held accountable for anything that I did to the Liberian people. And I would not hesitate a second to return to Liberia to answer any question in Liberia about torture, murder, anything in my country, because I did not do it. I have no fears about returning to Liberia. And what ECOWAS and the AU are doing, they are not shielding me from my people. I tell you, if the international community finds money outside that I squandered from the Liberian people, I had no business squandering it. It is the Liberian people's money, they should take it, and I should bear the consequences for it. But we must make sure that the world does not judge leaders because you are from a small country based on perception. You must bring facts, and they have a responsibility.
Are you ready to go back home and clear your name?
Well, I tell you, my own take is that all Liberians must participate in the peace process in Liberia. All. You cannot force me to be anti-peace. How can you? I left for peace. I have persuaded all of my followers to pursue the path of peace. You can't say that, no, he's anti-peace. I'm not anti-peace. For me, Liberia's movement forward into peace is in my interest. It what? It hastens my return to Liberia. So for me, I would say, when disarmament, demobilization is all over and Liberia is free of arms and peace has returned, Charles Taylor and every other Liberian should go home. Because one of the difficulties I have seen during the years of my presidency, the more influential Liberians that stay outside the country, the more probable there is a chance for disruption. If I'm out, there are going to be thousands out. There's mischief. Let Taylor go home. Let all of the other Liberians. I was glad to hear the other day when Prince Johnson, who had been in Nigeria for a number of years, returned. Liberians need to go. They need to reconcile. I support a process of reconciliation like the Truth Reconciliation Commission of South Africa, of which I would want to appear before such a commission. I owe it to the Liberian people to account for whatever I did or didn't do. And I want to do that.
Do you keep in touch with home regularly?
My lawyers, yes. But because of my promise, there are some diplomatic situations. I do not get involved in the local government or local politics. I contact my lawyer. There's a lawyer that represents my interests in Liberia. I talk to my family, which I think I'm entitled to do. But as far as politics or the issues of the day, no.
You've been accused of remotely controlling the affairs in Liberia. Is that correct?
Well, I tell you what, again, when you begin to deal with these perceptions, they're funny. When they want to do you in, they make up everything. Listen, if Charles Taylor can sit in Nigeria and quote-unquote remotely control or manipulate the process back home, I think that is an insult to the government in Liberia. It's an insult. You are telling the government on the ground that it is incapable, it is inept, and that Taylor has to call. It's all nonsense.
Are you happy with the political situation at home right now? In other words, are you happy with Mr. Bryant?
Oh, Julie is not the problem for me. Julie is an old friend of mine. I know him. I have not talked to him since he became chairman.
Do you have confidence in him?
Well, I have confidence in the process. Because for Julie, I see Julie as an individual in the position, and Julie's work depends on what the parties want him to do. And so for me, he could never have any problems with me. I see the problems with the government of Liberia, Laird and Model, giving him the type of cooperation he needs to get the job done. Because if he's strong, it's because they've made him strong. If he's weak, it's because they've made him weak. He's not an executive president. He's not an elected president. So he has his own constraints. But I have confidence that he is a man of goodwill, and that given an opportunity, working with the international community, a lot can be done. It's important that a lot be done. Liberia is 25 years behind. I realized that if I had stayed on board, the goodwill from the international community would have never come. So for me, I'm anxiously waiting for the goodwill from the international community. I have followed the donors conference with $500 million. I think that is too small. That's just a drop in the bucket. Liberia would need between $5 to $10 billion over the next 10 years to bring it back to life. And the international community should realize $500 million is nothing, it's a drop in the bucket, it's a good beginning. But we cannot look at Afghanistan, who's looking for billions, and look at Liberia, that is destroyed over 12 years of civil war and gave us $500 million, and I made the sacrifice. So the goodwill is important, and I hope they would encourage the process.
How do you square up then your position on the fact that the international community should come to your aid, and the fact that you don't want them to tell a small country like Liberia, we don't like this president, get out?
Well, if the assumption is that the president is the problem, and this is where it's all wrong. Let's go back a few years. President Talbot was then chairman of the OAU. He was killed. It was said then Talbot was the problem. Doe came in. Liberians started problems. And they went to some of these big countries. And they said, oh my God, Doe is the problem. Doe got killed by Prince Johnson. Taylor is elected. Come on, oh, Taylor is the problem. Come on. The president cannot be the problem. We have an intrinsic problem in Liberia. And one of those problems is that Liberians, unlike most other African countries, have not determined their own identity. I'll be very honest with you. They want to be Liberians, they want to be Americans, they want to be everything else except Liberians and Africans. And so you find yourself in a situation where I have compared to, if you took a first grade student and you gave him calculus, he cannot do calculus. So if you took me now and put me at the North Pole without a jacket on, I'll die. Liberia, a fourth world country, not third, we passed third, a fourth world country, is expected to act as a first world country on certain issues, but on others, you are permitted to act as a fifth world country. It's not possible. Liberians have to establish their identity. We must look at our own customs, our own cultures. We have traditional ways of dealing with issues. In Africa, Nigeria, you have the same. You have your chiefs, you have your elders, where we come around and we solve our problems.
One fundamental problem facing the Liberian government as it is now is that of disarmament. How can they be disarmed? Do you have a foolproof formula for disarmament?
I'll tell you what happened. I don't want to... the only thing I have to say based on experience, there's no such thing as forced disarmament. There was a mistake made before I was elected president. The Mozambican formula is a good formula. Combatants that have been in the bushes for years, coming out of the bushes and handing in an arm, need a head start. I think it would be a good idea not to tell a guy, bring your arm, and oh, thank you very much for bringing it. He has to go home, he has to leave. I think a disarmament package ought to be put together. Every combatant that comes in with an arm, and may I just stress this, the way these guerrilla wars are fought around Africa, and Liberia is no exception, it is not only the guy with a gun that is a combatant. You may find 100 people going to combat, 25 may have guns and 75 without guns. You have to deal with all combatants equally, whether he has a gun or he does not have a gun. Prepare a package, give it to him, encourage him to go back home. Before I left office, one of the last bills that I signed into law was the Veterans Act. What I did was, I apportioned farmland for every combatant of the war, Lord, Model, everybody. If he wanted to build a house, we will give him an acre of land in his region. If he wanted to make a farm, we will give him 10 acres of land to make his farm free and deeded. If you were to do that, follow that formula, give the combatants land to go do farming, give them some little money to go and start their lives, you would have very good disarmament. Failure to do that, I'm afraid that you will have substantial disarmament, but you will not have total disarmament.